The first sign that something was wrong came with the knock, soft, deliberate, and impossibly clear. Claire paused mid-bite, her fork hovering above the half-eaten lasagna. She glanced at the others around the dining table. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice tentative. Elliot, her younger brother, rolled his eyes, slouching deeper into his chair. "It's probably just the wind. Old houses make weird noises, Claire. Relax." "It wasn't the wind." Mia, Claire's best friend, spoke quietly but firmly. She sat rigid, her dark curls spilling over one shoulder as she stared toward the front door. It sounded close. No one moved. The only sound was the faint ticking of the clock on the mantel. Claire set her fork down, the scrape of metal against porcelain breaking the tension. "I'm checking it," Elliot groaned. "Seriously? You're falling for this? Just sit down, finish dinner." But Claire was already on her feet, crossing the room. Her steps felt unnaturally loud on the hardwood floor, each creak punctuating the silence. When she reached the door, she hesitated. The peephole revealed nothing but darkness. "See?" Elliot called from the table, his tone dripping with mockery. "Nothing there. Can we eat now?" Claire ignored him, her hand hovering over the doorknob. Something about the knock felt wrong. Not the sound itself, but the weight of it, like whoever had knocked was waiting. "Mia, come here," Claire said, her voice tight. Mia stood reluctantly, her movements careful. She joined Claire at the door, her breath shallow. "I don't like this," she whispered. Claire turned the knob, cracking the door just enough to peer outside. Nothing. The porch was empty. The street lamp down the block flickered weakly, casting jagged shadows across the cracked pavement. A chill wind blew through the gap, making Claire shiver. "I told you," Elliot called from behind, but his voice wavered now, as if some part of him wasn't entirely convinced. "Wait," Mia said, grabbing Claire's arm. She pointed down, toward the doormat. There, resting neatly in the center, was a single photograph. Claire picked it up, her pulse racing. The image was old and grainy, the kind you'd find in a dusty shoebox. It showed 3 figures standing in front of the house. This house. But their faces were wrong, distorted, blurred as if they were shaking violently when the picture was taken. Mia stepped back, her hand flying to her mouth. "Claire, that's us." "No, it's not," Claire whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. The figures wore their clothes, stood with their same postures. Even Elliot's lazy slouch was unmistakable. Behind them, Elliot's chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Okay, not funny," he snapped, approaching them. He snatched the photo, holding it up to the dim light. "This is a joke, right? Some messed up Photoshop or..." Another knock. This time, it came from the back door. All 3 of them turned simultaneously, their breaths hitching. "No one's back there," Elliot said, but his voice cracked, betraying him. Claire moved first, her movements sharp and purposeful. She strode toward the kitchen, ignoring the protests from the others. The back door's window pane was fogged over, condensation blurring the view outside. Claire wiped it with her sleeve, her hand trembling. Nothing. Just the swaying branches of the oak tree in the backyard. And yet, the knock came again, louder this time. Elliot appeared beside her, his bravado crumbling. "Don't open it," he said quickly, but Claire wasn't listening. She unlocked the door, pulling it open in one swift motion. The backyard was empty, except for another photograph. It was pinned to the tree trunk, fluttering in the wind. Claire stepped outside, the cold air biting at her skin. She didn't stop until she reached the tree, peeling the photo off with shaking fingers. This one was worse. It was a close-up of their faces, terrified, mouths open in silent screams. But what made Claire's blood run cold was the figure behind them. A tall, shadowy silhouette loomed in the background, its featureless face staring directly into the camera. Claire staggered back, dropping the photo. From inside the house, Elliot and Mia screamed. She spun around, her heart pounding. Through the open door, she saw it, a shadow moving through the dining room, slow and deliberate. "Mia! Elliot!" she shouted, running back inside. But the house was silent. The dining table was empty, the half-eaten lasagna still steaming. On the table sat one final photograph. This time it was just her, standing alone in the backyard, staring at the tree. Behind her, the door creaked shut.